I don't know how to start this review. I really don't know how to start this review. I can't just go in and say, hey guys, how you doing? My name is Luke Nukem. Today we are going to review War for the Planet of the Apes. I can't! I honestly can't! When you see a movie that is so amazing, you gotta do something special about it. So, I'll start out like this. The Planet of the Apes movies, old and new, are my favorite movies of all time. All time. I love the 1968 original with Charlton Heston, and while the sequels, they're kind of a mixed bag either way, I still enjoy watching them. However, the first time I even watched a Planet of the Apes movie or got involved in the franchise to begin with was with, as a matter of fact, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I remember watching that movie on Christmas 2011. I got that movie on DVD, and I have it right here to prove it. I got this DVD on Christmas morning, and when my family sat down and watched it, we were like, oh, okay, it might be a really cool action movie with monkeys fighting humans. But no, it actually got very intense, and it got very smart as it went on. It gave me a story I've never seen before, it had great performances, while also giving me very good ape versus human action, and this movie introduced to me not only one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen in my life, but quite possibly one of my favorite characters of all time, the CGI ape, Caesar, who is being played by one of my favorite actors, Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis, as you would know, played Gollum in Lord of the Rings. It was a movie so good that I bought the Blu-ray version just to go along with it. This movie introduced me to an entire genre and franchise to me. But then 2014 rolled around and it gave us Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which not only is a sequel that is quite better than Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but I think is a movie that is actually, to my eyes, quite better than the 1968 original. And now we are here with the third installment called War for the Planet of the Apes. Whenever a third movie of a trilogy rolls around, you get a little skeptical because it could either go either way. It could be a third movie where it's the best of the trilogy, like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Toy Story 3, or The Bourne Ultimatum. Or it could be a third movie in the trilogy where it's actually the weakest. See also The Dark Knight Rises, Spider-Man 3, and Return of the Jedi. And I just want to say this from the bottom of my heart without any kind of exaggeration whatsoever. Not only are Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes the greatest trilogy ever made, but quite possibly, War for the Planet of the Apes might be the single greatest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. This movie is absolutely a landmark in the 21st century. This movie is a miracle to cinema that I have been waiting for a very long time. And I'm not exaggerating about this, nor am I completely fanboying over a movie. This movie I would simply describe as a masterpiece of filmmaking. How truly amazing, you ask? Well, let's talk about War for the Planet of the Apes. Basically, in War for the Planet of the Apes, it begins 2 years after Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where a war between the humans and the apes had been commenced, all because of a rogue ape named Koba, and the only survivors have contacted a military base in the north to take out the apes once and for all. However, while this is going on after the events of Dawn, Caesar is still trying to maintain control of the entire thing. He is still trying to maintain peace with the humans without any kind of violence whatsoever. However, once an evil colonel, played by Woody Harrelson, unleashes an attack on Caesar's clan, Caesar goes full-on revenge mode and he plots a warlike vendetta against the evil colonel that may decide the fate between the apes and the surviving humans. Before we talk about anything else in this movie, let's talk about one of my favorite actors of all time portraying my favorite character in recent memory, Andy Serkis as Caesar. This is his best performance, not only in all three movies, but I think it's a performance that quite possibly surpasses his performance in Lord of the Rings as Gollum. His performance in this movie is heartbreaking. You feel the emotion and the passion that you see in Caesar's eyes. However, from all three movies, we are seeing a different side of Caesar. We're seeing a Caesar that not only want to avenge his kind, but we're seeing a Caesar that quite possibly is struggling with his inner demons, mostly because of the previous events that transpired before this movie. And I swear, he should definitely, without question, get nominated for an Oscar, at least a nomination. Whenever his presence is on screen, Andy Serkis commands it. The story itself is masterfully written because not only is it a character-driven story, but it's also one of the greatest character studies I've ever seen in a film because it mainly focuses on one person, Caesar. We have seen Caesar through all three movies, ever since he was an adopted chimpanzee. Now he has grown up all the way from a rebel, to a leader, to a hardened soul that not only is tackling demons in him, but we are following him on a path of revenge. And throughout all of these movies, the character development between all these apes have gotten even better. Like, you have seen other characters like Maurice the orangutan, who has grown to be one of the greatest friends that Caesar has ever had. Also, like characters like Rocket or Luca have all been completely developed well. And while the four of them are on screen, you are seeing some of the greatest character development you are ever likely to see in a theater. And the construction of all three movies, when you think about it, is completely mind-blowing. Because when you watch Rise, Dawn, and War all in an exact row, which is what I did at a triple feature, it's gonna feel like a huge overarching story that completely works. And trust me, when you do, it's gonna feel refreshing. The CGI and the motion capture work. What more is there to say? It is unbelievable. It is some of the greatest CGI I've seen in a long time. As a matter of fact, I would kind of use this word to describe the CGI in this. It's revolutionary. Ever since you've seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the CGI has gotten really good. However, once it gets from Dawn to War, it gets completely believable to the eye. And the actors that perform these apes have done an incredible job. The cinematography is staggering. There were so many shots in cinematography that my jaw was to the floor the whole time. Just even from the opening scene, it's gorgeous. One of my favorite shots in the movie is not only ones from the trailer like the apes pointing down the arrows ready to attack, but there is a shot that involves Caesar, and the camera is looking back at Caesar, and you can see all this fire and destruction of war. And it's the definition of a work of art. The editing is perfectly well paced. Every minute of screen time is freaking earned. There is not a single scene that is too long where you get bored and it feels like the movie is dragging, or too short where you don't get any kind of development with the characters, or you feel like something was completely wasted. And I just want to say that Michael Giacchino has unleashed one of his best, if not his best score in years. My favorite tracks, Exodus Wounds and Apes Together Strong. Please listen to those songs. In fact, go down in the description below. You'll find those songs right here. Click on them, listen to them. They're so beautiful. And also, the music plays a very important part in this movie, because there are at times when there's kind of moments of silence, or there are apes doing sign language towards each other. And all you need to make those kind of scenes perfect is not only the performances, the cinematography, the editing itself, but that music. Aside from the main characters, which are basically the apes, the human characters do a really excellent performance. See also Woody Harrelson as the Colonel. He's completely menacing in this movie, but he's not so evil and bloodthirsty to the point where you think he's a cartoon. And not only that, but his motivation from wanting to annihilate all these apes, once you see it on screen, you can completely identify what he wants to do. Even scenes that involve him and Caesar are completely tense. It's some of the greatest moments of characters having a conversation I have seen in years. Also, there is a girl in this movie played by Mia Miller, and her performance is amazing. There are scenes that basically involve her and Caesar that are very beautiful to watch. She is probably one of the best child actors I've ever seen. There's another character I really want to talk about too, and that is Steve Zahn, who plays the character Bad Ape. Now, when I saw this character in the trailers, I was like, okay, this is going to be one of the most sympathetic characters in the movie. However, when I heard from multiple critics saying that he's pretty much the comic relief, I was a little worried, because he's kind of a comedic relief character in a very bleak and serious film. And the character of Bad Ape was such a serious risk that they were willing to take, because if they didn't execute him properly, then the film would really lose its momentum. However, Steve Zahn pulls off an excellent performance for Bad Ape. Not only is his comic relief surprisingly funny, but at the same time as you're watching him, you're still seeing the pain in his eyes. And that is great acting in Steve Zahn's part. And I also want to add, the ending itself is some of the most powerful, poetic, and beautiful endings that are ever burned to a piece of film. It was an ending so powerful and beautiful that by the time the scene ended and the ending credits rolled, I was crying continuously. War for the Planet of the Apes is a miracle to cinema. It is everything I wanted out of a movie and so much more. A masterfully written story, revolutionary motion capture work and CGI, staggeringly beautiful cinematography, editing that is well paced, phenomenal acting and powerful characters, a breathtaking climax with Michael Giacchino's excellent score, and Andy Serkis, one of my favorite actors of all time, giving it his best performance as my favorite character of all time, Caesar. People, I have seen many movies that I gave a 5 out of 5 to, a perfect score. With this, I think it deserves something more. I honest to God think it deserves something more. And everyone, with that being said, War for the Planet of the Apes, with no exaggeration at all, gets the very first in my entire channel, a 6 out of 5. Rise, Dawn, and War of the Planet of the Apes is pretty much the greatest trilogy ever made, and I think War for the Planet of the Apes is quite simply the greatest film of the decade. Sure, I may have said that for multiple movies, but in all seriousness, this right here deserves that title. Go see this movie, please. I don't care what you're doing for summer vacation, whether you're going to a foreign country, I don't care if you're going to the beach, I don't care if you're just chillaxing at your home. Go see these movies. They deserve your money. These are some of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. And I promise you, if you go see these movies, you'll have a rewarding, satisfying experience you will never forget. Alright guys, that is my review of War for the Planet of the Apes. Comment below, let me know what you thought about this movie. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. And also, be sure to subscribe for more. My name is Luke Nukem, and as a great ape once said, apes together strong.